again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Geek for fun.
Indeed. And we continue our character discussions by talking about what Sonic character?
The Sonic character that has been a foe and beloved for many years now, featuring an extremely popular sequel game, the main rival to Sonic. Oh no, we already did that one. Who the fuck are we talking about now? Oh, Knuckles! Knuckles the kid there.
I mean, he had a sequel game, Knuckles Chaotix. That was a sequel game.
That's my bit.
Yeah.
He's just been involved. We're now drawing the original Shadow, except he's got some more bits to him, which I think do make him worth talking about, because Knuckles is just like a really interesting character, because like legit, he's got the most lore in the series.
So like, if Shadow's Vegeta, is Knuckles Piccolo or Tien?
He's Piccolo, I'd say.
Yeah, because he's got like his own race and stuff going for him.
Yeah. And he's also the last, and he's also guarding the emeralds, and he's got the creation myth. Like there's a lot of Piccolo in Knuckles that he eventually just became a gag character as well.
Yeah. It's like, I used to be his rival, and then Shadow showed up. Anyway, Knuckles is one of those things where, like, I have this weird thing where I think everyone kind of really digs the Sonic character designs and stuff. I think that there's just this undeniable appeal. I think, like, Sonic is the base for it, and then it just gets kind of, like, as far as, like, the cool characters, not counting the wacky ones, it kind of just gets better from there. Like, Knuckles is a huge leap in coolness from a character design level than Sonic is, in my opinion. And then Shadow's like the epitome of that.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. I do think he's got some things to it. I do really like his design. I still think Sonic looks cooler than Knuckles to me. I think maybe it's just like literally the color red, blue, and the personality wise. Because I always thought Knuckles with like the longer nose and stuff didn't have the same like sleek appeal as Sonic, but he's definitely just got like a really striking, like that was an era of like you got like Mega Man X and like Zero, and like everyone had like the cool red doppelganger, and Knuckles really fit that mold perfectly. His introduction of just like, you can't get introduced in a more badass way than knocking the fuck out of Super Sonic.
Right, with like one punch, he takes out Super Sonic, and then that was the epitome of the cool things he would ever do.
He peaked instantly.
Fucking Knuckles fanboys in the comments are like super shitty right now, and they're like, "Fucking in the Sonic Archie comics, Knuckles did this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure it was cool." And like 3 people read it, and that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm throwing shade at Knuckles. I don't wanna anger the Knuckles fan base, all 3 of you. No, but Knuckles, I do think Knuckles just always had a really cool appeal for years, and I had it until it broke. I had a Knuckles keychain that I wore around. I just love the aesthetic of Knuckles. The fucking dreadlocks of the quills. Looks nothing like an echidna. Like, obviously Sonic already looked nothing like a hedgehog, but like, it was just such a leap from there. It's just Sonic the Hedgehog, Knuckles the echidna, Espio the chameleon. None of these things look like what they're supposed to.
I think Knuckles did set the standard for that specifically. Like when you get to Jet the Hawk and he's got like actual hands.
Right.
Like I think, oh, okay, hold on a minute there, buddy. But it's one of those things where I feel like like obviously when you introduce Tails, it's the psychic character, which is Luigi. But I don't think he did predate Wario, but he's definitely a very different character than Wario because he's not meant to be evil Sonic. That's Shadow. He's very much meant to be a third faction introduced next to Eggman and Sonic and Tails, which is really unique for like again. It's probably why Sonic 3 and Knuckles is so beloved. Is part of like that story is told. It's very simple, but it's very effective. With Knuckles' introduction, he's a big part of why that game is remembered so much. It's not only for the different gameplay styles, but him just being around as like this. You only get to boss fight him once, but he's always at the end of every stage just messing your day up.
And I mean, he's got like he's got kind of that Green Ranger thing going for him, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like he was the villain, but like unwittingly or not through his own design. He was manipulated, kind of thing. And so that really does help to kind of like make him fit in better with the whole crew, and makes it feel like less of a 180 when you realize that, oh no, he was the villain, sure, but he didn't realize that he was being manipulated. He thought the guy with the evil robots was obviously the bad one, as opposed to the guy using the Master Emerald, or using the Chaos Emeralds to be a Super Saiyan.
That's one of the things that I really want to talk about, because it's maybe the most interesting, infuriating, or just... I don't know why they keep going back to that well, because it is one of those things where like, you really can only tell that story once, where, okay, he's the guardian of the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald, and like the Chaos Emeralds are gone, and then Eggman turns up and he's like, oh, this guy's using the Chaos Emeralds, he's heading here, he's going to take the Master Emerald. Like, you could kind of buy, okay, maybe he'd be more suspicious of that, especially if like Robotnik uses like a silver tongue that like works his way, because he's meant to be protecting this, and if he sees someone else using their power, like Sonic's literally just using it because, oh hey Tails, you're on the plane, alright, I'm gonna jump off and go Super Sonic because why not? So you can buy it at Knuckles and be like, okay, he's abusing their power. But after that story's done, and he's like, oh, my bad, you actually were using them for good. The fact that we keep doing immediately in Sonic Adventure, oh, Sonic's gonna use the emeralds for evil again.
Really? Is that his character in that?
Yeah, because he's like, he sees Eggman go with Chaos, and he's like, oh, you're gonna use the emeralds, and then Eggman's like, oh, no. Sonic's coming after the emeralds again. Why don't you stop him? And then he's like, oh, okay. And then he fights Sonic for a boss fight. And then he gets beaten. And he's like, oh, I guess I was wrong again, Sonic. And then Sonic Adventure 2 happens. And he falls again. And then Sonic 06. And like, he's constant. He's all... And I don't even get started on like the video game, like the anime, like Sonic X. Like, that's like every other episode. Knuckles is tricked by Eggman into something.
And yet people complain about Sonic Boom redesigning him and reworking his character to be a bit of a dunce. I mean, that just seems to fit at that point. If anything, it makes it better if he's easily manipulated.
Like, he's always been an idiot. It's just the degree of that. Like, because there are different, like, this is a guy who's lived on the island his whole life. He gets manipulated easily, but he's not an idiot, he's just kind of naive or a fool. I know that's kind of like just the language there, I think, has to be used quite specifically, because hopefully what I'm trying to get across is being portrayed. But like, Knuckles doesn't have to be like completely an idiot about everything. It's just this one thing he's not good at. Like, he's not as smart or streetwise as Sonic. We exaggerate that more and more slowly as things go on, to by the time of Sonic XX, he legit is an idiot still. And then when you get to Sonic Boom, they just make that the gag. And like, again, you're right, people reacted really strongly to that, but it's always been there, and the fact that they're using it not to make Knuckles infuriating, but to make him charming and likable, I think is a really strong idea. Because if you're going to do it, at least making him a lovable idiot.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's got, like, the cockiness, too, which kind of goes hand in hand with that. Like, I still remember the fucking first episode of Sonic Boom, the TV show where Sonic's looking for the sidekick, for the new sidekick, and Knuckles applies, and he's like, So you want to be my sidekick? Well, you're gonna need a different name. No, Knuckles, you're applying to be my sidekick. I'm thinking Knuckles Jr. It's just that shit's so funny to me. I think that they really wrote Knuckles really well. I think a lot of that show is written fantastically, and the game is a nightmare. But the one refreshing thing about like watching people play the game is every so often there's like actually some kind of funny dialogue. So they got one thing down. Unfortunately, it's not the most important part of game design. That would be designing good games that people want to play because they're good as opposed to because of how awful it is. Yeah, so like Knuckles is one of those things where I didn't even know that he was constantly like manipulated into fighting Sonic. I guess my perception of him was, oh yeah, Eggman always just shows up and steals the Master Emerald or whatever, or breaks or whatever. I didn't realize that he was like fucking gaslighting him into fighting Sonic over and over again.
It's actually there's a really great moment in the IDW comics where it's just and it's in the Sonic Mania adventures as well, where it's just Knuckles gives his perspective of these encounters, and it's like a doodle style sketch. The art style just switches to Knuckles with like gigantic muscle arms to like, and he's just like Chad Knuckles, and Eggman with like a hat and a mustache. And one of them was like, oh yeah, he came in, he said he was like a shiner for the Master Emerald. And like, the Master Emerald, it's out on this island all the time, there's no roof or anything, so it gets kind of dusty. So I figured, why not let him shine it? But I turned my back for a second and he just got it, and I realized it was Robotnik again. He's literally just put a mustache and a hat on, and that is mainline host Sonic Forces Knuckles.
Fucking, this is the guy that was leading the resistance for months, and no wonder that they lost 99.9% of territory under fucking Knuckles' leadership. God. Oh, man. Fucking Knuckles. I didn't know he was that big of an idiot. I thought it was just like, okay, yeah, the Master Emerald gets stolen just every time because we need Knuckles in the game. I did not realize he was constantly manipulated into fighting Sonic over it. That's hilarious. At that point, he should just be roboticized or something. Like, because he doesn't really... Does Knuckles do much for the team? Like, when was the last time Knuckles was even fucking playable in a mainline Sonic game, first of all?
I mean, I guess we're not going to count Mania, because that's like its own, like, it's set in the past kind of thing. So, I'm going to say 06. Yeah, it was 06 was the last time... I mean, you could kind of play him in Generations in like those mini games, but that's not gameplay. I don't think that doesn't really.
No, you never play You never play any of the friends in the mini games. You play against them in all the mini games in Generations.
Oh yeah, there's this one where like Knuckles is with you and you have to dig with him. Like you take him somewhere. Yeah, I got mistaken.
You command him to dig. It's the dumbest fucking.
But yeah, so like he was in 06. In very much the adventure formula, and I guess maybe because he's a video game character, he can get into that, like, what does he bring to Sonic and just the team. His gameplay style it's interesting because
it's fucking broken in the old games. Yeah, he is just absolutely destroys when they fucking like opened it up to be able to play Knuckles in like Sonic 1. That shit is ridiculous. But what I'm sorry, you were saying about his gameplay in like the adventure in 06 and stuff.
No, I think that still does apply because it very much stemmed from that. Is Knuckles like is one of his other features was just he can climb up walls, he can glide, and he can break through obstacles you wouldn't be able to be. So a lot of his play style was more just exploring paths you never would have before. So they took that in the adventure series and just made him find the emeralds, which is like in Adventure 1. I think it works because the radar's not busted. Like, the radar's actually really helpful. You can find more for things at once, and it's kind of a nice change of pace after the Sonic stages. Like, I'd always say that Adventure 1, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles have really good gameplay, and if it was just those three, that game would be, like, remembered as, like, a really good classic. It's just Amy, Big, and Gamma that let the team down. But Knuckles in that is fine, but when you get to Adventure 2 and they completely mess up the radar and the controls kind of janky for him because his acceleration is too fast, and then you get to Heroes and like he's entirely combat based, and Sonic, you're meant to be blasting through enemies in one hit. You don't want to stand there hitting health bars the entire time. Like, as a character, being designed as a fighter in a series where you're supposed to blow past enemies in one hit and then move on, it's kind of counterintuitive.
And like it's especially odd because the one point someone made about Unleashed and its nighttime gameplay that has kind of always stuck with me is that game would have been so much better if it was a Sonic Knuckles buddy cops kind of story. And instead of Sonic being turned into a fucking werewolf, the nighttime stages were just Knuckles levels, where they're more of a beat-em-up God of War style thing. And I'm like, yeah, that would have worked so much better. Has anyone modded Unleashed to just make those stages just a fucking Knuckles character mod?
No, sadly. They got him in the day stage.
I'm sure. Like, that just makes so much more sense. That argument has always stuck with me. The Sonic fan base is so fucking good about, like, specifically pointing out where it fucked up, where the main franchise fucked up. You know, like, they have like super hindsight, and they're perfectly able to diagnose the problem every time. It's amazing.
It's kind of uncanny, because then they also go and fix the problems, be it mods or just like, oh, Generations was kind of short. Here, let's add every other level from every Sonic game ever into it. Here's all the characters, skins, and transformations you could ever want. Oh yeah, Forces was kind of bare. Well, let's just add lots of new content to that and make it play like Unleashed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, pretty much. It's insane when you look at the disparity between the stuff. What else with Knuckles? What the fuck does the Master Emerald do?
So, from what I can gather, is it's the thing that harmonizes the Chaos Emeralds to stop them from literally being Chaos Emeralds. It's implied that if the Master Emerald goes, the Chaos Emerald like get out of whack. Like you get like I don't think they've ever done it, but if anyone's ever, I'm sure everyone listened to has because it was so big. But you know the Rise of Nazo fan animation where like the Chaos Emeralds have that black energy coming out from like the Black Star Dragon Balls. That's in the lore, that's implied like something like that will happen. It's just the main series has never done it. Which is just like the reason the Master Emerald's there is just it calms and lets you control the Chaos Emeralds properly. What I don't understand is why it's always so separate from the other ones. Like the Chaos Emeralds wind up on like other planets in like Sonic Colors, but the Master Emerald's only on this one island. Like, doesn't it have a special zone?
I don't know. That's a good point. I just always like. It just always seems so separate because it's always part of like the schemes, but it always seems like it's just there to get Knuckles involved in the story because he can't just be hanging out with his friends or something and going on the mission too. It just always seems so odd that it's not like, okay, yeah, and you need the Master Emerald to be able to like unlock it, because in Sonic 3 and Knuckles you can go supersonic earlier in the game, and then you kind of like lose and have to, or no, you have to supercharge the Chaos Emeralds using the Master Emerald to be able to go hypersonic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like, why doesn't that get played with more? Because if I'm remembering correctly, since Sonic 3 and Knuckles, there's never been an official, like, appearance of hypersonic again.
Yeah, they've even gone on record to say it's not canon anymore.
What?
Yeah. It really annoys me. They retconned one of the coolest fucking ideas in the franchise, and I don't get why.
I don't know. Oh, that's so dumb. Because Knuckles has his own super form. He gets like pink, right?
He has a super form and a hyper form.
Okay.
But he gets pink and then he just flashes pink faster when he's hyper. Tails the fucking bitch can't go super. He needs the super emeralds to go super.
It's funny.
So like that's one of the things where I'm just like, even then, that just gameplay wise, that lets you know like dorky strength levels is, oh, Knuckles legit is as good as Sonic. He can even go hyper, whereas Tails is like younger and down below them both, so he needs the extra boost to go super. Like that makes sense. Knuckles gets his own boss fight versus like Mecha Sonic, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's one of those things where like almost immediately we just play up the idiot aspect and we lose. It's literally like he starts off as Piccolo, but then he transitions to Yamcha.
Oh, poor Yamcha.
Because all he exists for then is to get beat up by people to show how strong the opponent is, but not in the Piccolo, oh, I put up a good fight sense. In the, wow, what an idiot, he got himself in trouble and fought that thing when he wasn't ready sense, which is the Yamcha thing, which I find really interesting that we just... Because by Adventure 1, they weren't planning Shadow, so I don't know why they just threw the rival to the wayside like that. It's really strange.
I mean, I think the glass joeing, that could almost be a whole topic, just glass joeing characters. Because do it to Vegeta, do it to Sonic, do it to Knuckles and Shadow, do it, like, all the time characters get glass joed to... And it's such a cheap fucking technique in writing, goddammit. We say after the Saiyan saga where we glass Joe the entire Justice League. But no, like it's a weird trope that like I think is necessary at a certain level. Like when you get to a certain level of power, you kind of need that because otherwise it's just like, well, why is this character like such a threat? Because conceivably, from the last game or whatever, we've seen this our hero character deal with so much. It was like, oh, well, we have this guy's like almost like the hero, but not quite, and he just got tossed. So this means it's a real challenge for our hero. Yada yada. Goku is his own glass Joe half the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
It's one of the things with Knuckles where I feel like it makes less sense. Because I feel like you should almost do it the other way around. Because we're always highlighting Sonic's the fastest thing alive. But then at the same time, we're also making him the best fighter in the team. Like, Sonic's legit a better fighter than Knuckles. And that bothers me. Like,
yeah,
you're taking... It's like making Superman faster than the Flash.
Mm-hmm. You're taking like the one thing that he should have, like if you look at the stats, Sonic should have speed boosted to the max and Knuckles should have strength boosted to the max, like in Heroes, right?
Yes.
So it's such an easy fix but at the same time, in order to fix it, you have to make him playable, and he hasn't been like. I guess I don't know. Does he have his own story in Mania, or is he just a playable character in Mania?
He has some extra scenes in Mania, yeah. He's got an extra not extra
Boss
level,
fight.
but his level in the saloon zone is completely different than Sonic's. Like Sonic's one is he's on Tails' helicopter, like Tails' plane, and he's fighting enemies like that, like Sonic 2, whereas Knuckles gets to play at the stage.
Okay. I think that's fine then, and it's at least a better step. But like you discount Mania, and it's been over 10 years since he's been mainline story playable.
Mm-hmm. And that just counts for everyone.
Yeah, that's crazy. But at the same time, if they can't get fucking Sonic right in a goddamn game, should they really be fucking with his band of friends that's like way too fucking big? It is a real problem. It's pretty ridiculous.
And I feel like the balance was struck with Knuckles. Because if you just look at it from like I really like how it laid out, because very much like how Pokemon had it, like the different starters or the different ways you pick difficulty. Like if you pick Bulbasaur, it's basically playing the game on easy mode because he's really good against the early gyms. If you pick Charmander, it's like playing the game on hard mode because he's really weak to the early gyms. And then Squirtle's the middle ground. That's the same with Sonic when it originally started, is Sonic's the middle ground. Sonic's just normal. Tails is easy mode because you can fly over everything for like ages, and it's more meant for like the little brother of the team to play kind of thing. Knuckles, you're right. You throw him in Sonic 1, he breaks that game. You throw him in Sonic 2, he kind of breaks that game as well. Before him in Sonic 3, his pathways are legit harder. He takes more time to go places. It's harder to go fast as Knuckles because a lot of his gliding, you can't speed up his gliding like you can the spin dash and stuff. Like, he's still got all those tools, but if you want to play Knuckles like Knuckles, he's a slower type of gameplay. And I think that's a really good way to do it, where if you make Knuckles the hard mode of, say, if you want to throw him in the Unleashed format, maybe Knuckles doesn't have so much, his boost doesn't go as fast, but he doesn't even need it to plow through enemies because he just hits them or something. Like, you give him a melee, like, and it isn't like Heroes where they've got health bars. It's just everything Knuckles hits goes down. He's just not as fast.
Yeah, or you just like give a level where it's like, okay, Sonic, these enemies will take like 2 to 3 homing attacks, whereas Knuckles can do it in 1. And so, like, you can create that interesting thing of which one can you get through the level faster with? Because you can just flood an area with enemies, then make that like a path you can't go around. And yeah, I mean that kind of, you know, that gameplay dynamic kind of makes itself. To Sonic works best when it's like kind of not made for speedrunning, but is complementary to speedrunning. I remember seeing a YouTube comment on a Sonic Generation speedrun years ago, and it was, you know, speedrunning in all the other games always looks kind of weird and unnatural, but in Sonic games it just feels so right.
Yeah, because it's lore-based.
Yeah, right? It just, like, it looks like it's how a good Sonic game is programmed, is if you're doing everything right, you're going to go as fast as possible. So it just looks good. We're not going to talk about glitch play because it honestly kind of ruins the aesthetic. But anyway, like, so you could do like cool things where it's like, okay, the way to get the fastest time on this level, you have to experiment with do you play it with Sonic where these enemies would take like 3 hits with Sonic, or 1 hit with Knuckles, which will actually be the faster way to get through, even if Knuckles is slower than Sonic's top speeds.
And I think that works really well because I think the advantage Knuckles has over every single rival character we've ever introduced in the series, and honestly, I'm even going to go so far as to say just games in general. Like, the only other one I can think of is Zero from Mega Man, and even then I don't think the dichotomy is as clear. Making a rival character that is literally Sonic uses his legs and Knuckles uses his fists, and one's blue and one's red, is so perfect, and like anyone can immediately get what those two characters are about just from sight. Like, that's and you can get how those two would play and why those two could be seen as like rivals. Shadow just being Dark Sonic works for his character. He just plays exactly the same as Sonic with maybe like an extra bells or whistles. That's kind of his point. He's like Sonic plus, like he's the better Sonic that Sonic has to overcome. Whereas Knuckles is just a completely different skill set while still remaining fast enough to still be in the Sonic game. And I think that really, really works because, again, you look at someone like Jet the Hawk or even Silver or like any of the other characters that they've introduced, they're always too far past the simplicity of run fast, punch hard.
I agree. Just out of curiosity, I went and looked up to see if there are any Knuckles fan games, so I found Knuckles Burrow Trouble. I wonder if I can install it and play it right here on recording. Oh shit, it's got sounds. I'm gonna turn it off so I don't bother people listening to the video. I might have to check that out. It's set in classic Sonic style, so I'll be bad at it, but I might have to look into that, see if it's any fun to play, because I don't know, he does seem like a character. If the Sonic franchise hadn't been horribly mismanaged, like, he's got this is such a departure, but I'm going to try to make this point quickly. As big a problem as constantly introducing new characters has been to the Sonic franchise, I feel it's one of those aspects where it's been arguably handled better than Mario, because, like, literally the only difference between Mario and Luigi is one's taller. There was one game where there was a discernible difference to how they played, and that was Luigi jumped higher. In the reskin of whatever that fucking game's called that they released in America because Super Mario Bros. 2 was too hard.
Doki Doki Panic.
There you go. I wasn't sure if it was Doki Doki. I was like hesitant on that. But like, you know, Luigi just is a reskin of Mario. Same with Wario when he plays like in Mario games, is he's just a reskin of Mario. You give him his own game and he's got like it's almost not a Mario game. It's almost just like a really weird fucking trippy game when you play Wario games, right? There's not like anything. Whereas if the Sonic franchise had been handled better, that these other characters could handle spin-off games and actually manage them, yeah, you could make a whole Tails game that was like all puzzle solving. You could. Did. Oh, did they? For real?
Yeah, it was Tails. It's not Tails' Sky Patrol. It was Tails' Adventure something, and it was like a really solid Metroidvania game. Where playing as Tails, like it was really good. It's kind of an underrated classic in the Sonic fan base. It's an old one.
No, I've never even heard of it. But like my point is, you could make a Knuckles game that is more like a classic beat 'em up or something. And works with his power set because he is different enough. He plays differently than Sonic if you let him. That you could, for a lot of the Sonic characters, you could go off and give them fucking separate games and it'd probably be better off for it. But again, they can't even get Sonic right consistently. Again, I just fucking marvel at Sega. Just like, all right, we finally, after years, hit a stride for a good gameplay style in 3D, and we got a really big critical success with Sonic Generations. Now, well, better throw that out. Let's try this fucking ripoff of Super Mario Galaxy. What? Why?
Hypes, Ian. Hypes.
Anyway. All right, so I think that's a pretty good discussion on Knuckles. What do you have to recommend for Knuckles? Because I'm just going to cheat and say, okay, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I actually do really like him in Sonic Boom. Fuck you, everyone. His character design change I actually do really think was a fun move. And the episode of Sonic Underground he is in is not good, but I was hyped to see Knuckles in a Sonic cartoon, so fuck off.
Yeah. For me, I'm gonna go with look up the IDW comic that has the Knuckles. It's like a panel, but it's the best Knuckles scene ever of Knuckles explaining how Eggman tricked him in his own mind with jacked Chad Knuckles. It's pretty great. Then I'd say there's actually a really cool episode of like the Sonic X cartoon where Knuckles is like on his own in a city and like he meets like a cop and they like solve a mystery. Like, it's kind of cool because like obviously in the English version of that, Knuckles is voiced by the same guy who voices Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh, so he's got like a really deep cool Knuckles voice and he fits as like a hard-boiled cop. He doesn't play by the rules. And another cheat just because it's the best and I want it in the games. Watch the Sonic the Hedgehog movie because Knuckles has got a bum-ass hat in that.
Okay. All right. Okay, everyone. Next week, let's discuss... I'm going to keep it out of DC. Kind of wanted to say Steve Trevor, but I'm going to keep it out of DC. Let's discuss Darth Maul.
Ooh. Timely.
Yeah. Really? Is it?
Well, they announced an Obi-Wan TV series.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I hope he's not in that. Okay, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm a geek for fun.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.